today we're going to talk about Iris germanica, bearded iris. Now there's lots of different irises. This one is the one that most people think of in this area. This one is the one that is the state flower in Tennessee. Usually when you see it as a state flower, you see they call it the purple flag, blue flag. It's got the little beard. It's nothing spectacular, but it grows prolifically. It'll grow on top of one another. I've never seen anything like it. So this is the one we're going to talk about today. But keep in mind, there are lots of irises. There's irises to grow in the water. There's irises to grow in the dry. There's irises. There's Louisiana irises. There's Siberian irises. There's lots of iris. So here's the main care requirements for growing irises. Sunny location. Sunny is 6 to 8 hours a day. Well-draining soil. They will tolerate wet in the spring, like now, same as daffodils. They'll tolerate it wet now, but come the summertime, if you had them in a wet area, the rhizome would rot. It just doesn't like it. Do not layer the top of the soil with mulch in most zones. Now, this latest Iris magazine has stated that you can put dirt and mulch over your irises. Go figure. I don't know. If it works for you. Only water when the top 2 inches of soil are dry, and that is accurate. You know, again, once that iris is done blooming, you don't want to have it in the wet. Low nitrogen fertilizer in the spring to encourage bloom. In the spring, irises don't like extra nitrogen. So if you do when you do fertilize them, you're going to go with like a 6-10-10 if you do a full spectrum fertilizer. You don't want to put like a lot of compost. You don't want to put a lot of manure down in the trench if you build a raised bed. It's too hot for it. It'll encourage bacterial disease in the leaves and the stalk. When to plant? Usually, the bearded iris is usually planted in the spring and will flower in its first year. It will not flower prolifically in the first year. You usually, dependent upon the iris, if you're lucky, and it lives, I didn't mean that. When it lives, it's not going to flower a lot in the first year. Some of them will, but not all of them. Your stelladoras, there's a yellow. It's not named Stelladora, but there's a rebloomer that's a butterscotch yellow Stelladora, and then there's the clear yellow. It's the same species where they rebloom. They bloom prolifically right now, and then they fade back, and then you'll get another flush of bloom in the fall. But those are the ones you're seeing that are just blooming like crazy right now. If planted from bare roots, it can be planted in the fall or the spring. The sale that we'll have from the farmer's market will mostly be bare rooted. Those will be rhizomes that were removed from the soil, and we'll write the name on them and then sell them as bare rhizomes. They might not flower robustly until their second year. And bearded irises have a moderate growth rate with a capacity to grow 4 to 40 inches in 1 year. Yeah. That's a lot of the reason why people cut the leaves off, so the wind doesn't catch them and pull the rhizome right on out of the soil. Another way to hold your rhizome in the soil is put a rock or a brick or get a small child to stand on top of it for long periods of time. Heavy clay soils do not work well for growing iris, but sandy or gravelly soils are excellent. And I've seen pictures of places like in Colorado where they have not only wineries, and Colorado, California, where they have wineries, but you'll see this, you look down at the soil, and it's got full of rock. So there's just something about the heat holding capacity of that soil. If you've ever walked in a field after dark here and on a patch of rock, you'll notice that if you're standing on the rock, it's still warm. But you get off into the grass and the heat goes away. Well, iris must like that because they do really well in this soil. Let me emphasize that. Iris do really well here. If your native soil is heavy, you can plant irises in raised bed to help your drainage. That would be, you put the bulk of any fertilizer you're going to use in the bed, in the raised, like in a trench. Dig a trench. Put your compost in there. pull the normal soil, unamended soil, up over that. Put your rhizomes right there. This is the rhizome. Now that's not a root. The roots are underneath. They're like tendrils, like a sea urchin or a Portuguese man-o'-war. The little, the tendrils are the roots. I can't think of the name. The tendrils are the roots. The rhizome is a storage mechanism where the plant manufactures carbohydrates in the leaves, transports them to that rhizome, and that's where they stay to be used by the plant in the future. You can amend your soil with other things like gypsum or organic material like compost or peat moss, anything to lighten the soil. Clay has got great nutrients, but it's slightly heavy. Water. They like moisture, but they also need good drainage. Your rhizomes need good drainage. Water them when the top 2 inches of soil feels dry. These plants have a great drought tolerance, which really comes in handy here in July and August and September. Temperature. They're notorious for their hardy disposition. They don't mind temperature extremes if the soil allows excessive rain or snowmelt to drain away. Rhizomes damaged by heavy winds or hail can be susceptible to iris borer larvae. So if they're damaged by something, whatever it might be, the iris borer, we'll use that as an entry point. That's all that's saying. So just try to keep them intact. Fertilizer. Again, we covered 6-10-10 is your spring fertilizer. You don't want to hit these guys with a lot of nitrogen. So you don't want to use a lot of fresh manure, which isn't a good idea to use at any time. But 6-10-10 fertilizer around your irises. Too much nitrogen will encourage foliage at the expense of the blooms. Bone meal is also a good fertilizer. And bone meal is good. I tend to stay away from blood meal. Just because I'm not absolutely certain that it's free of pathogens. So the blood meal. I'm pretty sure that the bone meal is, but I'm not absolutely certain that the blood meal is. This is the types of bearded irises. Tall bearded, intermediate bearded, and I handed out a sheet. I hope I had it. I'll bring more next time. I'm sorry if I did not have enough. Tall bearded can be up to 47 inches. Then your intermediate bearded, I think, did anybody get one of those sheets? Yeah. Does it have the inches on it? No. But yeah, I think they're up to 37 inches. And then the short bearded, miniature bearded, border bearded, and then the main distinguishing feature of these subcategories is their stature. Although they also vary somewhat in bloom time, most irises bloom in the spring and some will rebloom in the fall. This is what it looks like at an iris show. Mid-State Iris Society will have a show next spring. I said that in public, so now I'm locked in. We will have a show next spring. You're invited. Here we go. 28 inches, but they do go to 47 inches, 16 inches, 8 inches. Now, miniature dwarf beardeds are as cute as a button. If you can find them someplace that labels them as miniature dwarf beardeds. There is a nursery that has a nice selection of iris off Prim Springs, off 840. It's called Iris City Gardens. They're having a sale right now. It's a great road trip. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes away. Then you can go to Leaper's Fork and have lunch at Fox and Lock. It's a really great trip, but she has a magnificent garden display and selection of irises. So you could conceivably get some of these smaller varieties that you don't normally see at that nursery. Pruning iris. Faded, withered flowers should be pinched off immediately. Pruning irises may promote additional blooms or even a repeat bloom period later in the season. Remove spent flower stalks. Trim the leaves in the fall and the winter. The flower stalk from a bearded iris comes out of the terminal point of the iris. You can cut that off all the way down to the rhizome. That is never going to generate any additional growth again. The additional growth after the fact in a bearded iris from that rhizome is going to come, they call it increases, and it comes off the sides. Then they'll form multiple plants you have this rhizome like this. It looks giant cigar, an ugly, giant, flat cigar. The bloom comes here. You cut that off. Just do away with it. The next set of rhizome or iris is going to come out the sides. And then they'll bloom, and then you'll get excess growth off the side, off the side. You cut that bloom stalk off. This is year over year. But that's how you do it. Just cut that stalk off. You never need to worry about that stalk again. Every 3 to 5 years, clumps of irises should be dug up, divided, and replanted to cull out diseased roots and iris borer damage and remove woody sections. Irises do make seeds. If you're a hybridizer, that's especially important. You pick out the attributes that you most admire in 1 or 2 irises, and you germinate one with the pollen of the other. And then you take those seedlings or those seeds and grow that out into seedlings, and you let them grow 2 to 3 years, and then they bloom, and then you determine which you like about it. And then you see how hardy they are. In another 2 to 3 years, you might introduce that to the market. It's just 6 or 7 years. It's nothing. Dividing irises will keep plants vigorous and allow you to propagate new plants. Iris from seed. Typically, nursery professionals to breed new varieties by careful cross-pollination. You can grow iris from the tiny seeds in the green oval pods left behind, if you so choose. There's the pod that will occur at the end of the stalk. You collect the seeds and plant them about 1/4 inch deep in the garden, and they will sprout and mature into flowering plants within 3 years. Okay, just made a liar out of me. But it will take about 3 years. It'll be about 6 years before you determine whether you have a plant you want to keep. Potting and repotting iris. Though uncommon, you can grow irises in pots at least 12 inches wide. Use a loose, soil-free potting mix and leave the tops of the rhizomes exposed or just barely covered. Do not overwater the plants. Colder climates move the container to sheltered locations for the winter. Irises in containers may need dividing and transplanting about every other year. There's not going to be a whole lot of nutrients in that pot. There'll be some, but not as much as in the soil. Overwintering. Trim back foliage to about 6 inches in the fall to tidy the garden, reduce the leaf surfaces for fungal disease to flourish, and remove caterpillar eggs. Destroy and remove foliage, but do not add it to the compost bin. You can burn it if so desire. If plants show signs of rot or damage from borers, dig up the roots, cut away the diseased or wormed damaged sections, and replant the healthy roots several weeks before freezing weather. That one's named Ice Capades. The iris is named Ice Capades. You can cut out a damaged section of the rhizome and then replant it. The plant will use whatever nutrients or stored carbohydrates that's left in there to germinate new growth. Other types of iris. Arils, aril bred, border bearded, intermediate bearded, Japanese, Louisianas, miniature dwarf bearded, miniature tall bearded, Pacific Coast native, Siberian species hybrids, spurias, standard dwarf bearded, tall bearded, bulbous, historics, novelties, rebloomers, and other iris. Now, let's look at some irises. Native iris is your Iris cristata and your Iris fulva. Iris fulva is also called a copper iris, and it grows primarily in the southern states where it's warmer. Iris cristata grows here very well, but it grows in the woods, or it grows in the shade. You can have a really nice Iris cristata growing here. And right now when people have these plant sales for plant groups, like the Garden Club's plant sale was in the parking lot this last weekend. If you just keep an eye out, you'll see a lot of people digging up Iris cristata. It's a beautiful little iris. These are the only two natives, however. The bearded iris that we know of is technically from Germany. State flower of Tennessee. Genus Iridaceae is the official state cultivar flower. It is a herbaceous perennial of which there are about 170 species, including several North American varieties. Most common is the blue flag. While there are several different colors among the iris, and the act naming the iris as the state flower did not name a particular color, by common acceptance, the purple iris is considered the state flower. It replaced the passion flower in 1933 as the state flower. The passion flower is still the state wildflower. Now the passion flower is also, that's Passiflora incarnata, I think. Yes. And that grows very well. Once you plant it, it will come back from pods under the soil, and the seed pod for the passion flower is edible. I can say that safely because I have picked one out of the garden and eaten it. It didn't upset my stomach or anything. The American Iris Society is a database of groups devoted to the study and classification of iris. At the present time, you can get an e-membership to the American Iris Society for $10 till they reach their limit. They sold X number of memberships. It's an electronic membership only, which gives you access to all the databases and all the information that they have on irises through the American Iris Society. It gives you groups that are devoted to iris memberships, and it has an extensive listing of iris and on that group. It also has lots of education that you can access. At the present time, you can access that and join for $10. It's an e-membership only. I have an e-membership. It's completely wonderful and gives me access to all kinds of stuff. I don't know how many named irises there are, but there's a ton. Names and descriptions, information on clubs and members, and different types of irises. Supersized Mid-America iris, $42. That's from Mid-America. Mid-America is the company that hybridized this and sold it. Suspicious Minds, $70. Mid-America, that's an introduction for 2024. When I was in Virginia, they call the curly part of the edge of the iris leaves is chicken fat. In that and in daylilies, which I always thought was just amazing to call it chicken fat, the curly part. Tenacity, 48. This is the introduction. Now, after these have been on the market for 3 or 4 years, the price goes way down. So, Va-Va-Voom. That's a Linda Miller introduction from 2023. And last year when I put this together, that was selling for $42 from the company. Vocalize Mid-America, the name of it's Vocalize. Mid-America is the company. It was introduced in 2024 and it was $70. War of Words, Mid-America, 2023, $44. That's pretty. Look at the veining in there. Oh. For anatomy purposes, there's a slide at the beginning. It shows the veining. There's your beard. This is called your uprights. These are your falls. And your stigma and your pollen and all that stuff's inside, so you don't really see it. They have different color patterns that they use in identifications. And that's all on that slide in the beginning. You make me blush, Sutton, $30. Born to Party. Now, doesn't that look born? That's the job I want, is naming these plants. See, look, the price is coming down because this is a 2023 introduction. Butterscotch Latte, Sutton. Sutton's a company introduced in 2022. And it looks like that's $30, but I'm guessing the B is that's a border bearded or a smaller one. By Your Side, Sutton's 2023, $35. Can't Stop Loving You, Mid-America, 20. Oh man. Look at that lavender edge. Chicken fat. You'll never forget that. Day of Reckoning. Final answer. This is your final answer.
That should have been a YouTube hours.
Yeah, yeah. Final Bow. That looks like it's a flat topped one. Yeah, you know, they have some that don't go way high. Leading Role. That's 2024, so that's why you get these high prices. This price will come down over time. If there's anything you see that you like, you can go to these. You can go to these companies online, and these prices do come down over time. But they're never going to be cheap. Look at that. Isn't that miniature tall bearded? And look, you're getting with the miniature tall bearded, you're getting extra flower instead of height. Instead of getting one huge flower, you're getting 4 littler ones. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, if you do it per bloom, it's only like $6. Okay, that's it. I know this is short. I apologize. Questions? Thanks for listening.